Hello everyone, I'm Chris with Cali Moto TV. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video. Again, we're out at On Any Moto, and I'm hoping you watched both videos, the one of the Tuono and the one of the Monster. Rode them both, and this video is a comparison between the two. And I know many of you might not think this is really a comparison because this has a bigger motor or it's more expensive or what have you. It's actually closer in comparison than you might think. So here's why. We're gonna talk about the price real quick. This straight out the door is around $13,495 and this is $11,999. Now, On Any Moto has this on for sale for $11,195. So if you're looking for a Monster, they have one. And this is still $11,999, so $11,000, $11,000. Can't really beat the price. Let's get into the technical specs of this Monster and this Tuono. The Tuono is a 660. It's got around 100 horsepower and around 49 pound-feet of torque. The Monster is a 937cc. It's got about 111 horsepower and 69 pound-feet of torque. Doesn't sound like a lot of difference, but as you see from my ride, I much prefer how the power and torque of this Monster are compared to the Tuono. I always felt like the Tuono was just lacking as you're coming out of a corner, even in second, sometimes first gear. It just wasn't enough to get me going up a hill and around a turn. Or this, the torque was just, it was intoxicating. It was a lot of fun to use. The other thing that really played into both these bikes is this is 399 pounds dry, so over 4 wet, and this is 366 dry, so just under, right around 400 wet. So this is actually, the Monster is a lighter motorcycle, and it really feels that way when you get into those nice twisty switchback type turns. Again, these are relatively close bike with 100 horsepower and 111. That's not that far off. So you may not be considering this Monster as a competitor. Now, when it comes to riding in the field, the Aprilia feels nice. I do think it takes a little bit to change direction, especially when compared to the Monster. The Monster just seems to want to lean in and change direction a lot easier and faster. You can sort of feel the weight of the Tuono. Again, coming up a hill and around a turn, it just doesn't give you that extra oomph that the Monster has when you do that same type of turn. I think the quick shifters on both of these are fantastic. This one feels a little more clunky, but it's also newer as far as mileage goes. The Ducati is a little smoother, but again, this has a little more miles on it, so maybe that's the case. The next major point about both of these bikes when you're comparing them are the brakes. Both have Brembos. However, the Brembos on the Tuono, there wasn't a lot of power initially, and then all of a sudden there was. And it wasn't very progressive in a sense, whereas the Monsters, you start to get the lever going and start to apply a little more pressure, and you can feel that pressure building in the caliper, whereas the Tuono, you just don't have that type of feel. It just kind of hits you all at once. It took a little bit to get used to, was especially when I was coming downhill and turning and wanted to slow down and steer the bike a little bit better. The Tuono didn't give me the confidence that the Monster did. And again, I'm rather surprised by that because I didn't like the 1200S Monster back in the day. I didn't like how that bike rode. And I kind of came into this thinking this Monster would sort of have the same characteristics, and I was pleasantly surprised. The electronics of both bikes are fantastic. Surprisingly, Ducati has a fuel gauge. Aprilia also has one. The one thing that Aprilia has over the Ducati is cruise control. I do wish Ducati would put cruise control on more of their bikes, especially something like a Monster that would be used as probably a commuter machine. This Tuono has it. I would ride this to and from work more often than I would ride this. Now, I would take the Monster on twisty, fun roads far more often than I would take the Tuono. I'd also enjoy the Monster on track more than I would the Aprilia. It's just, again, it just doesn't have that extra to get out of turns, and I really, really like that with my motorcycles, to have that grunt. Monster's also, and I think the Tuono as well, is one of those bikes that just, you want to have a lot of momentum when you're going through corners, and especially when you're kind of connecting them and flowing. And I think that's what's really cool about these smaller CC middleweight bikes is they don't rely on the brute horsepower, brute torque, and brute power that they all have. They have, yeah, like I said, the Monster has plenty of torque. It's just, if you stay on the revs, both bikes, and you keep it up, they really lend well to that, and they become more fun to ride. Again, this one just you add some incline, you add a turn, you got to slow down to come out of it. It just doesn't have that little extra to get you out of the turn, which I think when I remember riding the RS 660, the sport bike version of this, I thought it felt like it did. Been a little while, maybe not, maybe I was wrong. Watch Bill's review of this Monster and sort of see if there's any sort of contrasting point of views, because there might be. I can't remember what he said about it, so go watch it, links in the description. Now the more subjective part, I'm going to talk about the looks. I didn't like how Aprilia initially came out. I didn't like the way they looked. I didn't think the front end really worked with the bigger RSV4. I thought they worked better for the RS660. And the Tuono, I also was like, oh, I don't know. The more I look at the Tuono and the new design that they came out with, I'd say new, it's probably like 3 years old now. I think this is a much better looking bike than this Monster. The Monster, honestly, you could probably confuse it for like an MT10 or like a FZ09 or something along those lines. Nothing that is Ducati. It doesn't scream Ducati. It also trellis frame, so it doesn't stand out quite the way they used to. So in terms of looks, I think the Aprilia is nicer looking. That's just me. All right, so I want to talk about two things. The riding position, sit on both of these and sort of see what they feel like. Comfortable. They're comfortable. The thing that I don't like is this right here. There's not a lot of space. I'm not a small dude, so there's not a lot of room to go back. On the Ducati, it's pretty much the same. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of room back here. The other thing with the Ducati is the stomp pad back here is actually hard, whereas this seat's nice and soft. So when you do go back and you push against this pad here, it's not unpleasant. The Ducati, it's hard. It digs into your tailbone. It's not that comfortable. Like when you throw a leg over that, oh God, oh, come back and you'll see it's like I'm sitting normal and I'm just up against it. What I do like with the Ducati though is it is very narrow. The Aprilia felt a little more bulbous, a little more girthy. The Monster is just really light and nimble feeling, especially when you're just flipping around comparatively to the Aprilia. Well, these are my thoughts of the 2024 Aprilia Tuono 660 factory. Fun. Needs a little bit more torque. Definitely a capable machine. I think it looks better. Fantastic quick shifter. A little more feel in the brakes, and this is a fantastic machine. And the Ducati 2023 Monster. Great brakes. Love the torque that's coming out of it, and it's a great bike that can be used as a twisty, commuting, and even on the track. I think this would be a blast, and it's not that intimidating. It's also only $100 difference between both bikes when it's for sale, like it is here on Any Moto. $11,195. This is $11,099. MSRP of this is $13,000, so it is a little bit more, but again, $2,000 for the overall package that you get. I lean more towards this as far as overall joy of riding. Fun, comfortable bike to ride. Does everything decently. Does everything rather well. So those are my thoughts on both bikes. I'd like to thank Any Moto Power Sports again for allowing me to demo both bikes and then take up time in their shop to record this video. Again, this Monster is for sale. It's $11,195. And this Tuono 660 is $11,099. So if you're in the market for either one, definitely hit them up. It's a blast riding them both. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you think about either one of these. Which one of these would you take? I'd go with the Monster, but I don't know. You guys might be different. Anyways, see you on the next video. Have a good one.